PwC's annual Global CEO Survey has become a bit of a Davos tradition. It tells you about what top CEOs across the world are thinking, saying, and doing. It's a pleasure to have with me Dennis Nally, who's the chairman of PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Great to be here with you. Thanks.
Dennis, a main point that you seem to suggest is that we've seen a turnaround in CEO confidence. Globally, things are looking better, but it's still a glass full, and the components of the glass themselves are quite fragile.
I think that's a good way to put it. Look, I think we need to acknowledge 1 year doesn't make a trend, but things are clearly pointed in the right direction. But I do think there's a degree of realism here too. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of issues that are out there that still have to be addressed, that create uncertainty. But the feel today is a lot better than just 12 months ago, and I think that's the positive view coming from the CEO survey this year.
So 44% still a way to go from the 52% we saw pre-crisis levels.
Yeah, I think that says it all, right? Which is, in the heyday, things were pretty positive, and those days seem a long time ago. But it's also, I think, interesting to point out that maybe people are just feeling a little bit cautious before they start, jumping up and down, feeling really great about where things are going. But hopefully in an encouraging and supportive way.
In India, your message is mixed as well, because you say CEOs are actually the fourth most confident in the world at 49%, but those levels have dropped from last year when they were as high as 63%.
Well, I think you know the story. High expectations around the potential for the Indian economy. I'm a big believer in the Indian economy. I think it offers just tremendous opportunities here. I think that's how not only CEOs in India look at it, but the CEOs internationally as well. Having said that, as you well know, there's challenges. CEOs want to know what the rules are to make investments, clarity of regulations, consistency of treatment from a tax standpoint, issues that really govern how CEOs feel about the business climate, if you will. We all know there's an upcoming election here. Just being in India last week, this was the topic of a lot of conversation. I think there's high expectations for whatever that new government is and what they're going to do, and hopefully as soon as possible getting out some very clear pro-business, pro-growth strategies that are going to unleash the potential of the Indian economy.
But are they uncertain about the election outcomes, or they feel that once we get certainty, no matter whether it's the BJP or the Congress or the UPA or a combination of regional parties coming together, do they feel that India will continue to press on economic reforms once it's catered to its mass political catering, in fact, right now to the masses?
Well, everybody I've spoken with, coming out of India over the last couple days, everybody states the fact that the potential for the economy is far greater than what's happening today. So 5%, 5.2%, whatever that number turns out to be in terms of GDP growth, it's not bad relative to other economies around the world, but it's not where people see the potential of that economy being. So hopefully, the new governments, whatever that coalition will be, will recognize that there's challenges and issues that need to be dealt with, prioritized, and hopefully dealt with quickly, so that the pro-growth that we've seen, coming from India in years past, you get back on that track pretty quickly. And I think that's the hope, the potential that exists there.
Okay, very quickly on two challenges right now that you say CEOs are talking about. One is the fact that they can't find enough people for the right job. So yes, they're looking to hire, and we know that unemployment and underemployment in the world is at its zenith, but still they just don't find the talent skill set. Yeah. So on that, as well as technology, which clearly has both advantages and disadvantages. Absolutely. In terms of internet security and taking away white-collar jobs.
No question about it. It's the positive and minus, as you say. I mean, the economy's transforming itself, requires new skills, different kinds of skills, requires skills in different parts of the world that don't exist today. So it's a combination of those factors that really need to be addressed. But to me, this is one of those areas where, at least I believe, there's a real opportunity for business, for governments, for university systems to really work together to address that problem. Because it's not a problem that can be effectively solved by one part of that matrix. And so I'm hopeful that even through some of the dialogue and discussions we're going to be having here at Davos, that we really begin to address what I think is going to be a fundamental issue from a longer-term economic growth standpoint if we don't address it.
Somebody at the forum asked you a question, is France off your map? I'm going to ask you the question, is India off your map, in the sense that BRICS no longer command the same level of excitement that they did for so many years past? The gap between the developed world and the emerging markets has shrunk considerably in just the last 2 years.
Yeah, well, I for one don't see it that way. I mean, I think, in fact, I would say the CEOs in the survey don't see it that way either. I mean, the CEOs are looking to these megatrends. One of the megatrends we're talking about is clearly the significant economic shift from the developed world to the developing world. That hasn't changed. The potential is still there. The massive creation of a new middle class in many of these countries in those developing markets is certainly there, and I think many CEOs see that. Having said that, as you point out, the BRICS are moving in a very different direction. They used to move pretty consistently all up, right? Well, that's not the experience that we're seeing today. That doesn't mean we won't get back to that kind of performance, as some of these economies actually go through some adjustments, restructuring, et cetera, to deal with the tremendous success that they've had in the past. So I for one, am still very, very optimistic. I think, particularly as it relates to India, I think it's got tremendous potential, and I'd like to see it realized here.
And one final question about India. The fact that income gaps here at Davos are a top theme, and India knows it much better than many others. What advice do you have? Oxfam just came up with a report saying 85 people control half the amount of wealth as do half the world's poor. So for India, is there a particular message coming out here at the forum?
Well, I think there is. I think the particular statistics that you decided is a real issue that has to be addressed. I also think, though, there's a bigger issue for business in general, which is the whole lack of trust that exists today. And I actually do believe business contributes today in a much broader societal standpoint than just earning a profit for its investment or return for its investors. Business needs to do a much better job at holistically telling its story to the broader public, so that the public understands the contributions that are being made from not just an economic or an investor return point of view, but from a societal standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, through the education systems, whatever. And I think it's incumbent on business to start to tell that story, and in so doing, I believe would effectively address the issue that you just raised.
Thanks so much, Dennis Nally.